Hey, Dan, how are you?
Great.
Great. How's retirement treating you?
Staying busy, staying safe.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Hey, thank you for my calendar. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm glad you got it. I had to leave it at special cargo.
Yeah. Well, I did get it, and I love the National Cathedral, so thank you. It means the world to
Yeah,
me.
I can't wait to if you preach there, I'll go.
Well, that would be a true honor, and that is it is truly an amazing, amazing place. Are you doing any consulting in your retirement, or are you just
Yeah,
getting
I've
to
been doing
enjoy
some
it?
speaking. I gave a lecture at the hospital on cancer screening
Uh-huh.
and doing some other little
Yeah,
things. I don't like the word things, but there's some other little projects.
sure. I figured you wouldn't just
Hang it
stop.
up. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
trying to stay away to keep involved.
good.
State
Well,
organizations, national organizations, not that sort of activity.
well, with your skills and training, I couldn't imagine that you would just
Stop.
be able to stop and walk away instantaneously. But I'm glad you're also getting a chance to take a deep breath. So
What is that? Where are you located,
I am
Dawson?
in my office. Hey, Gay. So I'm actually kind of in a corner here. I have a table where I often when I have to scatter things out. So I
Tell me
decided
about the
this was
cross collection on the wall.
so the best thing about those crosses is I have never purchased a single one of them. They have all been gifts to me, and they all have unique stories behind them. So not only obviously are the stories behind the people who've given them to me unique, but then each cross is unique. So there's one when I left my church in Dallas. There, it's made of barbed wire from Texas, from a place in Texas. So it's I don't think in this screenshot, but then there's one a place in the greater Houston area that works with adults with disabilities, and so I have a couple from there because it's absolutely one of my favorite places in the world. Just it just has a spirit about it that I really like, and so people knew that, and so my parents have given me one. I think my sister's given me one, and Pat McGee, the last Christmas that she was alive, gave me one from Guatemala that she ordered. And so there's just unique ones that I can just sit there and tell the story
So
of
you
each
weren't
one.
tempted to get one when you were in Greece and Turkey.
No, I'm always tempted to buy one, but that's one of the unique things about that wall that I love is that I've never purchased one for myself. So,
Well, all right.
hi, Selena
If I make it to
Evans.
the Holy Land, I'll bring you one back.
Perfect. That sounds great. Selena, are you back in Naples or are you still in Boston or oh, you're muted. Sorry. That it may be an automatic setting on our
Yeah,
part.
it's
Right.
automatic. There you go.
It is.
Yeah, I'm here for another 10 days and I go
Okay.
to Colorado for a couple days. Then
Oh.
I'll be back on the 1st of December.
Now remind me, I can't remember. Do you have family in Colorado or is that
My younger son lives
okay? I
there.
thought you did. I just couldn't remember.
Yeah, my older son is here, but
Okay.
my younger son is there.
Oh,
I'm
I love
glad to hear
Colorado.
somebody's traveling.
I went back and forth about it. I was
Yeah.
ambivalent and they were too, but they don't have any kids, so they're not bringing kids in, with their friends. They're sort of quarantining before I get there. And all the reports have said, and I sort of felt this way anyway, that airline travel is not that risky.
Well, that's what Dr. Gottlieb said today on his interview. It was that, in fact, he's a consultant for the airlines and that they've made it safer. So have a safe trip.
Yeah.
Listen, I had to come back here last June, so.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I've just been wanting to go out there to spend time with them, and I put it off all spring.
And remind me, Selena, where in Colorado? I know you've told me. I apologize.
Boulder, they're in
Boulder, yeah.
Boulder.
Oh, beautiful area. Yeah.
You've been to Boulder? It is
Yeah.
beautiful.
You know, when you live in Texas, Colorado and New Mexico are popular places to vacation because you can get there so easily. And
Right.
so those are places that that I've been, you know, and Javier and his partner Jeremy, they're in the greater Boulder area
Are they?
now, because Jeremy's on faculty at University of Colorado at Boulder.
CU Boulder, yeah.
Yeah.
My son went there for college
Oh,
and
wow.
never came home.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
and it's really hard to believe he's lived there longer than he ever lived here, you know.
wow. Yeah. And then
But
Gabe,
that allowed me to get to know Boulder, you know. 'cause
yeah, and that's a fantastic area to get to know.
It is.
Gabe, what are you doing for Thanksgiving?
I'm traveling all the way to Fort Myers, and
That's a long way.
it is. I'll see if I'm up to the trip.
I hear you.
There are 5 of us that are all from, well, 4 of us are from UW-Eau Claire,
Uh-huh.
and one other friend of a friend down here. So it'll be good.
Yeah.
I think. But Christmas, that's a whole other issue. We can't decide what we're doing for Christmas. I haven't seen my granddaughter for a year now, and I haven't seen any of the rest of the family since January.
Do you
And-
Zoom with them? Do you do Zoom with them? Because we did.
Oh yeah, we Zoom
Zoom.
well, I say I haven't seen them. I haven't seen them in person. We
Yeah.
Zoom every Sunday night. Yeah. My
Oh.
grandson's in law school in New Hampshire, and the rest of the family's in Wisconsin, and we Zoom every Sunday night.
Where in New
Jackson-
Hampshire is he?
Pardon?
Where in New Hampshire?
He's in law school at University of New Hampshire in Concord.
In
Jackson is in
Concord.
law
the
school?
UNH is in
He's in-
Durham. The main school is in Durham, New Hampshire. I'm in Massachusetts, right over the border.
Oh, sure. Oh, he's in Franklin Pierce. Well, Franklin Pierce is University of New Hampshire. Yeah. What did you ask, Dawson?
So Jackson is in law school?
Yeah, the little baby grandson. I don't
just,
know how that happened.
that blows my mind. That's so exciting
Well,
though.
and-
Wow.
My son's next birthday, he's gonna be 60. I mean, what does that say about me?
It means
I've
you
been
look,
retired as long as I worked now.
it means you look really great to have a 60-year-old. That's what it means, Gabe. We're just gonna go with that. Well,
you,
listen, I will, I'm going to, I wrote some notes down because we've got lots of exciting things happening. There's a small group of us. I was trying an evening time to see if there were any who work that might want to join us. We're fortunate. I'm not trying to exclude him, but I haven't included Steve. He's our moderator, but he and I were together, Steve, probably 2.5 hours today. So
Got off.
yeah, so I've seen lots of him today, but actually, Steve, I did ask you what you're doing for Thanksgiving. Are you hosting or?
You're turning to me?
Yeah,
We're
what
on
are you doing?
lockdown. We live in Stowe, Vermont. We're not far from you in Massachusetts. Actually, we are. We're only 2 hours from Montreal.
I know.
But
I've been to Stowe.
but yeah. Anyway, Kathy, my wife, has declared we're on lockdown, so we're not having anybody, seeing anybody,
Okay.
doing anything until we can get a vaccine, and then we'll come south.
But Vermont's been pretty good. You've had very low numbers in Vermont. Of course, you have very few
Well,
people. but-
That's all. We're also the lowest number state in the country.
Yeah.
So
Yep, that's
That's
correct.
other-
49 states have had increased numbers. Only one state has not had a recent increase in COVID, Vermont.
Yep, exactly. And we live in the mountains on 13 acres, and so we basically don't even go out of our driveway. We have everything delivered here, and if you like your spouse, it's a very good arrangement.
Which is
Otherwise, there's bloodshed.
Otherwise,
Yeah, that wouldn't be
deep
good.
trouble. Deep
otherwise
trouble.
it's a made-for-TV movie. But yeah, but Steve likes it like that. 13 acres. He doesn't have to talk to anyone except me on Zoom when he has to. And I'm
Exactly.
grateful for the partnership and friendship that Steve and I share. And but we're fortunate we have our moderator with us, and he often typically is. So, but I made a list of lots going on, and it's extensive. There's lots of things happening. But so with a group like this, I will offer some things and then pause, because we can certainly, it can actually be a dialogue, which is kind of fun. So the first list I made were thinking about the holiday season, Advent, Christmas, because I wanted to let you know that some of the real traditions will continue. They will be obviously altered to give us the opportunity to make them virtual, but we will still have our Advent meditation services. There will be 3 this year because of the way the Wednesdays fall. So those will start the Wednesday after Thanksgiving, so almost a full week after. We will not have one on December 23rd, feeling that that close to Christmas. If you're that eager for church, you'll have plenty of opportunity the next day. And so we'll have 3 Advent meditation services this year. I didn't have off the top of my head who the artists are, but it'll allow Sharon, Deb, and myself to each preach. And so we're looking forward to that. Merrill is bringing a new tradition to us that I'm excited about on December 20th. I think it's at 4 p.m., but it'll be in the afternoon. I do know that. And it's going to be a Christmas tree blessing. And it's intended to be an intergenerational event where people will be invited to, it'll be a Zoom opportunity, but people will be invited to share an ornament that's meaningful to them. And then Merrill will be teaching about the history of the Christmas tree and how what it represents in our faith and things like that. So I think that will be a fun event that I'm personally looking forward to. And then we have our traditional music ministry concert this year as well, again on via a virtual ministry concert. And then our music ministry Sunday. And one of the things that we're adding is, if you remember in the past, the clergy often introduce the pieces of music that the choir is going to sing. And this year, because of the ability to do virtual, one of the composers will be introducing the music himself that he composed. And so it will be fun to hear from him about what piece he composed, why he composed it, things like that. And so we're excited that again, the technology allows us to expand what we can offer from that perspective. And so that's how some of Advent will unfold. There will obviously be additional things and programming that we'll be offering, but those are some of the highlights. And then Christmas Eve will be obviously a unique offering this year. We have looked, we have searched, we have brainstormed, and there's just no way to gather our congregation in person in a safe way. If you think about it, on a typical Christmas Eve around here from 4 p.m. until 11 p.m., we typically host around 3,000 people on our campus. And there's just simply no way to do that without becoming a super spreader event, or worst case, we don't want to do that. So on December 23rd at noon, we will release 2 worship experiences that can be downloaded. So if you are in Stowe, Vermont, or if you're in Massachusetts or Colorado or traveling, or Fort Myers, or if you're here in Naples, so we will offer a family-friendly service that will be kid-friendly and just like our 4 p.m. service. And then we will also offer a very traditional service in the spirit of our 6, 8, and 10 o'clock services. It will be a mixture of what I call highlights from the past, but it will also be new, also include new music, a new sermon, things like that. And so, but it will also have, for instance, the opening hymn, "O Come All You Faithful," with a full sanctuary to reminisce about when we can do that again. And then it will also include Silent Night with candles from a years gone by, so that we can remember that. So it will be a both and again, we wish that could be in person, but we in partnership with our leadership, but also visiting with other churches and visiting with health officials, there's just no way that we felt we could do that in person. So we'll release those again on noon on the 23rd, so that people can watch those with family. They can watch them on the 23rd, 24th, 25th, but we want to make them available by then. So that is our goal. Questions or feedback about any of that? So that's the Advent Christmas season. I'm going to jump a little bit ahead into the new year, and then we'll come back. Our annual meeting this year will be, as our bylaws call for it, on January 24th. You can expect a pretty typical annual meeting, except nothing will be the same. And it will be virtual, because we don't expect that by the 24th of January that we'll be able to be together again. It's obviously always our goal to be together as quickly as possible. You'll remember that our executive committee and church council each voted unanimously to follow the Harvard Global Health Initiative model, which calls for 2 weeks of green. Unfortunately, because of the spike that, as Dan or Dr. Morris reminded us, that 49 of the 50 states are seeing pretty significant increases. And so Collier County is back on right on the cusp of being red again. And so we're seeing a pretty significant increase. But we will be, so we anticipate being virtual, which also means we'll provide for ways to either vote through proxy like we always do, or you'll be able to vote online through SurveyMonkey. And people much smarter than me are figuring out how we'll be able to do that, and we'll make that as easy as possible. You can anticipate, obviously, our budget vote that we do each year, our nominating committee vote, and then we also have been working through a great task force led by Michael Downs. Have been working on a new set of revised bylaws that have been through already more votes than I can even imagine, but our executive committee, our church council, and each board and committee of the church have reviewed them. And so they will have been reviewed by more than 10% of the church by the time they even get to the annual meeting. So those will all be sent out in early January for review by the congregation, both as is called for by the bylaws, but also as our tradition to get those to the congregation. So that's just a little bit of a look ahead. Any questions about that, or anything you're curious about for that? I'm curious how SurveyMonkey will work, but we've got a great team of people working on that. Speaking of COVID and those things, we have a wonderful reopening task force that is hard at work. It's half lay people and half staff. It's being led by Ann Olson, our previous immediate past moderator. And they jumped in head first and have been hard at work. And I believe they will have a report, if I remember right, Steve, I think it's for the December council meeting. And so about protocols.
Actually,
that
I'll have an update on November 21st.
Okay, so excuse me, right, for the church council retreat. So Saturday, November 21st, so the Saturday before Thanksgiving, that will include protocols about when we do gather for worship. So again, the decision and the policy about when we gather is already determined by the council, but this group has been what I've called the real worker bees as far as how you'll register, because we have to have people register before they come, because, again, God forbid, but if people were to come in contact, we have to do contact tracing. And so we've really divided it into what happens before you come to church, what happens while you're at church, and then what happens as you leave church. And so this group has really worked on protocols and procedures and follow through. and have a pretty extensive report already in progress. And so, again, they've done tremendous work, and I'm deeply grateful to them. Um, uh, you may remember last year, I think it was our first year, we did what we called an alternative gift market. It was in McSpadden Hall, and it was where we helped support mission partners, including Baby Basics, and our Angel Tree was in there as well. We've been able to move that entire project online this year. And so it will be an alternative gift market that is available online, and it will go live later this month. And I assure you, we'll let you know that exact date. I did not have it written on my calendar, and I apologize, I don't have that date for you, but you'll still be able to support the Angel Tree as if you were here in person. You know, that's a long tradition of our congregation. And we'll be, obviously, Bargain Box is a part of that, as well as some of our other mission partners. And so again, it will all be an online interface so that you can go along and support mission partners as well as the ones that we have historically supported. So we're excited that the alternative gift market continues. Of course, like everything else in 2020, it just looks different. But of course, we'll be able to support that and continue. I'm really proud of our new Justice Committee. They have started their work. Their primary focus, as they determined and was chartered by the Church Council, was to focus on education. And so this past Monday night, they began with 25 people online in an education session about what does it mean to be a justice church today. And the Reverend Dr. Bernice Powell Jackson, who has a long history in justice work in the United Church of Christ. You may remember her from the Sacred Conversations on Race and Privilege. She also preached Reverend Wesley Snedeker's ordination. She's a pastor now in the Tampa area, and so we're fortunate to have her nearby, but also because of technology, she didn't have to go anywhere. And so she provided that workshop for the congregation and for the Justice Committee this past Monday night. And so again, they're off doing tremendous work, choosing topics that they want to help educate the congregation on and themselves. And so that was their first foray into that, and they have done a great amount of work. I'm also pleased to report that our October financials were released yesterday by Maria Hayes, our new controller, and we are in great shape financially. And so the generosity of the congregation never ceases to amaze me, and I'm really grateful for that. We actually are running a surplus at this point, which is always great. We typically turn the tide in October, November, going from typically a negative cash flow to a positive cash flow because we're recovering from the summer months and we're already in a positive cash flow position. And so I'm really, really grateful for that. That makes, as we always say, and my mentor used to say, it makes for a much more pleasant holiday season for the senior minister. So that will be nice. We have expanded our staff to help with our growing administrative needs. And I'm really excited to let you know that we have hired a fantastic addition to our staff. His name is Mark Harmon, and he will be joining our staff on Sunday, November 29th as our executive director. His direct areas of responsibility will be finances, facilities, human resources, technology, and reception. And so he will be overseeing a lot of, and then the Bargain Box, excuse me. And so he comes to us with an interesting background, with a museum background, and he comes to us from the East Coast of Florida. And he and his wife also have his mother-in-law living with them. And they are going to relocate here the week of Thanksgiving, which is, I'm sure, a wonderful and fun time to move. But they are so excited to make Naples home. And he was most previously the CEO of a small museum system there on the East Coast. And so he will be with us. And again, we called to formally offer him the position last Friday. And on Friday evening, I called back to clarify a few things, and he had already contacted a realtor and a mover. And so he is very excited to be here. He's had family live on this coast, and so they're very excited to call Naples home. They have an adult daughter who lives in the Boston area. So, and his original roots are in Ohio and Chicago. So he's Midwestern and with roots going back to here when he had family that lived in Fort Myers. And so I think he will fit into our congregation very well. And if you think about a museum system, that's exactly the type of expertise that we're looking for: facilities, technology. Even with a gift shop in a museum, he's going to be able to help with bargain box quite a bit with retail background. And so he is the exact fit. He's a very active Rotarian, and actually points to experience with Rotary and helping some of their what we would call mission partners, but some of how they impact through Rotary. And that's how he decided he wanted to make a career change and to do something in his professional background or with his professional background to make a difference. And so he is excited to be working in a church setting. Now, this is before he actually works in it that he's excited about it. So we'll see, but we're excited to welcome Mark and his family to our community the week of Thanksgiving. And so he'll be with us the first Sunday of Advent, which is a great time to get started. Any questions about that or any of that? Then on, let's see, speaking of searches, our Executive Minister Search Committee is going strong. We have done something which is not unheard of. We've actually taken the listing down off of ucc.org. Minister listings like that are actually kind of like real estate listings. After it's been there for a while, it can get stagnant and goes to the bottom of the list. And so you pull it, and then we'll list it probably toward the end of the year, so that as January rolls around and people think about perhaps looking for a new job, it's going to be there at the top. And so we're taking this time to review the job listing to make sure it still reflects what we're looking for and the caliber candidates we're looking for, and then relisting it. It doesn't mean that if someone reaches out to the Florida conference that we wouldn't accept an applicant, but it just means we're being strategic about pulling it and putting it back, relisting it later in the year. We'll take about a month with it down. So that's actually a pretty strategic move this time of year. And so I'm really grateful to Judy Jorgensen, who chairs that committee, and her 5 other members of that search committee. So we've had a good number of applicants. We're just not quite at the...
Question. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
That was my question. Do you have any candidates yet?
Yeah, we've actually had a candidate on the ground, and that's my language for in person. It wasn't the right fit, and sometimes that's why you need them here. Obviously, COVID complicates a search process like that. I would say this about the search so far. We've had a good number of candidates. We've not had the right caliber or the right fit of candidates yet. And I would say 2 things about that, and that is an executive minister is a unique position, especially in the United Church of Christ. And so, there's not a ton of applicants that would be qualified for it anyway. And so you get people who aren't necessarily qualified. And then the second thing is we want to, as I was reminded by a colleague recently, a protracted search or even a failed search is much better than a bad hire. And so we want to make sure we find the right person. And of course, we were so fortunate to find David and Deb. And so the bar is pretty high. And we want to make sure we find the right person for that search or for that position. And so I'm committed, as is our leadership, as is the search committee, that we're going to be patient and diligent in that search. And so, and I reminded the search committee, we searched over a year for David and Deb. And then of course, you know, we do a national search and they're what, 2.5 hours away. It just took the right conversation at the right time. So I really do believe I have a rather simplistic philosophy around hiring, that God raises the right person at the right time. And it's not failed me yet. I'm getting eager to find an executive minister. But we're also fortunate that David has been consulting with us since his retirement. He does it in his shorts and a t-shirt, but you know, he was at the office today helping me on a couple of things, and he had the lead on the executive director search. So, you know, he's around some. Once Mark gets on board, I think David will probably call a final retirement date and really not come into the office anymore. But he deserves to get to be retired, and I want that for him. You know, he's eager for that, but I'm grateful that he has worked. We have an hourly agreement with him, and he works as we need him and as he's willing. So so that's where we are with that. You know, again, we'll find the right person eventually. So we had one person here. We had actually had a clergy couple that we had a lead on, but they were already far ahead in other searches that worked out for them. And of course, we celebrate that for them. And so that means it wasn't right. So we'll get there. Other questions about that? I'm certainly happy to talk about that. So that's there. Let's see. Oh, I want to give you a COVID update. We've now had 7 church members who have contracted COVID. 2 of those have been hospitalized. We actually currently have someone hospitalized, but I do believe that they'll be released today. And again, we're so fortunate, but we've had no deaths due to COVID. And so, again, we're very fortunate. I would tell you, Dan would have probably a better view of this than I do, but I've seen pretty significant increases at NCH and Lee Memorial. And those reflect the numbers that we see in Lee County and Collier County of increases that are happening. And so, again, I think that's a really important reminder for all of us about the importance of the masking, the hand washing, the social distancing. And I think it continues to affirm the decision of our council and executive committee about not coming together for worship at this time in a large body of people. So that is what I'm seeing in the community around us. Let me see what else I wrote down here. Oh, I want to give you a quick update on technology. I try to talk about that every month. There is a brochure awaiting my approval in my briefcase that I'm going to take home tonight that will be mailed out to the congregation. We're doing a significant upgrade in our technology. So again, that while we're in this virtual time, that we can continue to reach out to our congregation. You can't see it, but from my office window, there's actually spray paint markings on our lawn because they're putting in the fiber optic cable right now. They're installing it. And so that will provide for us much more stability and much faster speed. So we're really excited about that. And that's been a project literally that for the 4+ years I've been senior minister, we've been working on, because it took us that long to find a vendor who would even work with us about it at a reasonable cost. And so we're excited about that. And then we had a gift that was made that we will be able to outfit Beverly Hall completely as comparable to the sanctuary. So what that will do is free us up to, instead of when we do some of the concerts, instead of like 2 musicians in this enormous room in the sanctuary, we will start some of our concerts with really fantastic acoustics in Beverly Hall and start live streaming them from there, so that it's visually more appealing, but also acoustically more appealing. And so that means better camera shots, better sound, just a better experience for people who are listening and watching a concert. So we have now been able, because of that gift from a particular family, you'll remember that the music building is Beverly Hall. Beverly's that gift was originally made by Beverly's spouse, and now Beverly's children have taken that cause up. And so her daughter and son-in-law have made the gift to make that possible. And so we're excited about that. And we've now ordered all of that equipment, and it's now on order. And so we will be making strides for that. And then we've also ordered additional equipment for the sanctuary. And then there will be a congregation-wide appeal to help pay for new additional equipment for the sanctuary and also for Nelson Hall to enhance our education abilities, because every class, our goal is that every worship experience, every class, lecture, concert, memorial service, wedding will be able to be live streamed, both for the current pandemic that we're in. We don't believe that this will be the last pandemic that we have to deal with. And so for any future issues that we face, that we'll be ready. But also, we just had a membership class this past Sunday of 4 new members, and 3 of those who have joined have never worshiped in person with us. They all live in Naples, but they've never worshiped in person with us because they have worshiped online. And 2 of them before they ever came to the state of Florida, but they knew they were moving, and they found us online and been worshiping with us before they moved, and then now once they're settled. And Dan, you'll appreciate, one of them is a resident doing his residency at NCH. And so it's just been fun, and it's been interesting to see the impact that the virtual presence has. And so I think as we look to the future of our church, part of what we're seeing is it's not perhaps what will help build the future is not necessarily in bricks and mortar, but it is about reaching people through technology. It doesn't mean what happens in the sanctuary changes, but it means that the vehicle by which we deliver it outside of those walls is changed. And so we want to enhance and expand that. And so that's what we're working on. And so fortunately, we have the expertise on staff through Tony Falco, our technology director, and Brad Van Houten, our now production director, to help us figure all of that out, figure out what we need equipment-wise, and be able to get it installed. So we don't have to go out and hire an outsourced company that will add to the expense, but rather we can figure it out internally. So that's a real gift. And so we're working on that. So that's what the church wants for Christmas. So we're working on that, and we'll get that communicated to the church at large. And so with that, I think we reached the end of my list. So what questions, either things I've raised, things I've forgotten, things we want to talk about? Okay.
Well, this isn't really a question. Well, there is a question attached, but I just would like to say that I am proud of our church and how you're dealing with technology and using that to strengthen the church and the people that are involved. I'm old, so lots of my friends are old, or even older than I am. And I love technology. I mean, worked with technology. That was my master's was
right. I was gonna say, yeah,
technology, and so I'm comfortable with it. I love all this stuff, but a lot of my friends aren't. And you know, you say, I know we're taking in new members, and I think that's exciting. And I was pleased to hear that, you know, financially we're doing okay. But I know a number of my friends are looking for someplace else where they can worship in person.
Yeah.
And I, you know, you can't tell by looking at the little numbers in the screen, because I know that couples worship together. And but I just wonder, are you getting feedback that, how do we reach out to the older people, I guess?
Sure.
I mean,
yeah, no, I appreciate that. So 2 things I would say about that. The first is we're actually have seen an increase in worship attendance year over. So stick with me for a second. So by this time last year, we had what we count and how we count, we'd had 33,000 worship experiences by this time in the year. So that means in person, online, during worship, while worship was happening. By this Sunday in last year's attendance, we'd had 33,000 worship experiences. By this past Sunday in 2020, we've had 41,000 worship
Really?
experiences.
Wow.
So we've had a significant increase in our worship attendance and worship impact. And so I hear you in the sense that I know that people are seeking that experience. And here's my theory. It may be wrong, but it's a theory. I believe that people are really yearning for connection in person, because I believe that we can offer and are offering a really high quality online worship experience. And we're working hard at that. And we're, I think, improving every week. But I think what people, because I can speak for myself, and Gay, you can probably speak to it, and Selena as well, that, you know, living at home by myself, you know, I mean, my dog is entertaining, but he's only so entertaining. And so, exactly. And so, you know, I think people are really longing for that connection. And so the next level of connecting that the staff and lay leadership are working on is, what are ways that we can gather people outdoors for connecting opportunities that aren't necessarily worship related, but are, you know, ways that people can be connected. It might be worship, it might be social, but, you know, so for instance, that's part of what's driving the Thanksgiving dinner event. The original idea was that we would do that in the parking lot in person, but here are the things we ran up against. These are just, for me, they're just interesting details, but these things we ran up against. All of our parking spaces are angled. And so it's really difficult to block off part of the parking lot with angled parking spaces because you can only do one way. So when we designed the new parking lot, remodeled it 4 years ago, it was designed to help with traffic flow, and frankly, with older drivers, it's easier with angled parking spaces. And so, but now I kind of wish we had just regular, if you will, parking spaces, because it would make it easier. And we are landlocked in a way that doesn't allow, we don't have a huge lawn. For instance, like my mom's church in Houston has like an extra 2-acre lot adjacent to it. And so they're doing outdoor worship right now because they have a huge lawn. Well, our only lawn is on the front, and it doesn't really adapt to that type of experience. And so we've talked about, and we're looking at public parks, renting park space, beachfront space, you know, ways that we can gather people safely. For instance, Deb is going to offer a grief class in person on the Labyrinth that people can gather, but it's going to be highly limited, and it's going to be in that space because we want to try to see. So that's going to be kind of an experiment for us to see, like, what does that feel like, look like, you know, that kind of thing. So I hear you, because I have that need myself. And, you know, as I talk about, I didn't go to seminary to preach to an empty room and to a camera. And, you know, it's just such a different experience. And I'm certainly aware that there are people who are looking and going to different churches. And my hope is that when we're able to reopen and be together again safely, that some of those decisions will reverse. But I'm also not naive to realize that it may mean we lose some people, and I grieve that, but I'm not naive to that reality either. Sure. And so we're trying to walk that very fine line, of kind of the both and line, I guess. I don't know, but those are the theories that we're operating under, and that's how we're trying to address it.
I think overall you're doing a great job. I mean, I'm really proud. I'm proud of our church.
Yeah, I am too.
And I'm glad for the numbers, because I can have a little ammunition when my friends say, "Oh, you know, what's wrong with our church?" Anyway.
Yeah.
I've
And I
talked to.
wanted to echo what a wonderful job of keeping us all connected with all those daily emails and, as well as the virtual, gatherings. And it's amazing. I mean, I'm sure it's hard for all of you.
Yeah, it was interesting. We were talking about it today, actually, in the meeting that Steve and Ronnie Ballone, our vice moderator, and I were in, because I was reporting back on some conversations about communications and communication strategies and things. So just as a historical perspective, when I became senior minister 4 years ago, or 4.5 years ago, we were sending no e-blasts. Nothing was going out congregation-wide to our congregation via email. When the pandemic began, we were sending one e-blast a week. As of now, we are sending 2 congregation-wide e-blasts a week, one specifically to families and children, and then 5 a week that are related to the devotionals. So, I mean, the huge increase in that is, I think, tremendous in the sense that, again, the goal is to keep people connected to the church and to each other. But again, part of what we were strategizing about earlier today is, how do we maintain that level of communication for long term? Because again, it was kind of one of those things like, well, let's just do this, for right now, because surely this pandemic will be over just, in a few weeks or something, whatever I was thinking. And then all of a sudden, here we are. So I appreciate that. And it's also providing this unique opportunity, but also a little bit of a challenge to figure out what
It
those
has
next
to be.
steps are.
It's a huge effort on the part of all of you, I'm sure. It's really,
Well, I mean, in typical fashion, I get a lot of credit, but it's not an effort on my part, except for
I mean,
an extra 300 words a week. But it is on so many of our administrative teams' part to ensure, and that's where I'm so grateful for their efforts.
And I do think the idea of trying to get a park or somewhere we could have at least one, one every, I don't know, month or 6 weeks.
Yeah, so part of what we're, again, these are just all the things that we deal with, is one of the things I love about our church, especially starting around this time, is when we do an event for our church, it's nothing we do is small. And so, some of the churches that are gathering are small congregations, which is great. I mean, there is great beauty in small churches, but when our church gets together, it is a large gathering. And so we have to think through what are the logistics of that, because we still need to be, for safety purposes, socially distanced. We need to be, so we have to not only have a park, but we have to have, like, frankly, can be your park. It can't just be like someone's community park next to their development. It has to be a significant amount of space. Like, there's a church nearby that does a week or a monthly beach gathering, and staff and I were talking about it, but we were saying, if we say to our congregation, come meet here, I mean, when we do Easter at the beach, we now average more than 600 people on Easter sunrise. And so, how do we handle that size gathering? And how do we prepare for it? And how do we help people get transported to the beach, and, all the logistics, and keep people safe? I mean, that is what drives us, is how do we keep people safe? And so that's what we're working on. So we're looking into all of those realities and opportunities.
Just brainstorming. Could you do it like, A through F at this time, F through M, M through Z kind of thing?
Yeah, we thought about that. And we thought what was another way we were going to divide? There was another way we were trying to divide people up, and it was alphabet. I can't remember. It seemed like maybe it was like a lottery or something, like, here's a random number. So again, because it was also like, okay, at what point do we stop complicating it too? I mean, that was the other thing, was I was saying, okay, let's not overly complicate an already complicated thing. So, but no, I appreciate that, Selena. I really do, because that's another thing we were trying to figure out, as I say, bite-sized pieces. How do we how do we break this up into bite-sized pieces? And so that's where, in part, the Thanksgiving idea, instead of being an on-campus event that was increasingly becoming, well, how do we do this? How do we, finally it was, okay, we want to do this. So that's when we came up with the drive-through, and then inviting people to create a Thanksgiving experience of their own. So that's at the beach or with family or friends or in the parking lot on your own, you know, or whatever that looks like for people who are here.
Whatever you do, you are going to get a large number, but to a small extent, people will self-select.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, because I know in my community in Florida, I'm on the social committee, not when I'm here, but when I'm there. And they tried to start up events outside around the pool. Very few people attended.
Yeah, you know, and that's going to be an interesting reality to watch in the future. And that's part of why we're investing in the online technology is I also believe, and research also backs this up, is that the number of people who feel safe going into large indoor gatherings in the future, regardless of vaccine or not, I think will be significantly different. I really, really
Definitely.
do. And that may be for the next, you know, couple of years, or that may be forever changed in our society. I think it'll be interesting to see. I mean, it's going to have huge impacts. There's a letter going out from me. They were literally stuffing it today, but there's a research group that's one of the two leading groups in the research churches, the Barna Research Group, and it talks about 1 in 5 churches will not make it through the pandemic because they don't have the resources or the agility or the willingness to shift enough. And some colleagues and I have talked about the fact that we think it may be higher than that, maybe 1.5 to 2 churches. I mean, I think 2 out of 5 is a little high, but you know, I just think that there are definitely churches who cannot shift quickly enough out and pivot out of this, because again, it's changed everything. I mean, we saw that certainly with the election and things. It just changes everything. This is great. What other questions, comments, feedback? Dan, what are you seeing out in the, you have your eye in a unique way in the medical world. I know we're trying to let you retire.
Yeah, a couple things, and Gay, this might be of interest to you. I don't know if you're aware of this, Gay, but the cases in Naples have tripled since September. We were down to 7 per 100,000 per day new cases, and we're now up to 23.7 or almost 24. When it gets to 25, then Naples will go from the orange zone to the highest, or the red zone. Now in the orange zone, the red zone, which we're almost there, would be stay-at-home orders necessary. The orange zone, which is 10 to 24 cases, is accelerated spread. And we were down in September to 7 cases, which is the yellow zone. And we need to get down to the green zone, which is less than 1 case. I know there's, let me try to make it simpler, so because I know you're not taking notes there. But anyway, we went from 7 cases to about 24 cases, and we're almost in the red zone. The hospitalizations are up considerably, as Dawson pointed out. However, that data on a day-by-day basis is not available. So you have to sort of be in the in, as Dawson indicated. And I talked to my colleagues at the hospital, and the numbers are up quite a bit, but I don't have the exact numbers. It's in an email that I received, and I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to give that information out anyway. So it is difficult. I mean, it would be tempting to open the church and have a policy where you have reservations, and maybe people would sign some sort of consent. But I think the committee made the right decision by keeping it closed. It's a painful decision. You know, one of the things Dawson said a few minutes ago is it's amazing how important technology is in all of this. And I was thinking, it's amazing how important being there in person is in all of this. So you really, you know.
You have numbers. on the age breakdown, are you seeing it? Are there more younger people contracting COVID, or do you not know if that has changed?
I can't say for Collier County. I can't say for Collier County, but boy, it's been a while since I've looked at that. I'm not completely sure, but it's yeah. I'm sorry. I think I'm gonna duck that one for now, or defer it till our next month get together.
Not critical. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Because they say that it has in across the country, because the kids have been, less conscientious in protecting themselves and protecting others.
And more of them have gone back to school.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I do think there's a little bit of I'm not trying to throw younger people under the bus, but I do think there's a mindset of invincibility.
Sure.
And I do think there was a false narrative about, oh, you just get it, you have a cough and a fever and you're fine, and
You can't count on it.
that's just not the case, as we know.
The website that Naples United Church of Christ is using is globalepidemics.org. If you want to follow along on that, Gay, globalepidemics.org. And you can follow this on a day-by-day basis as to the case counts. And it's this is the worst that it's been in Naples, I think, ever, actually, at 23.7. Of course, our population here has doubled in the last month or so. So some of it's due to increased population, but not all of it, because our population didn't triple since September, and the numbers have tripled of cases. So stay safe, stay home, try not to go out too much. But I will admit, it's like, it seems like this is pretty endless.
You're making me
That's
nervous
the
about coming back.
Well, it has been interesting visiting with church members. For instance, we have a couple who are back, but I think this was their plan all along. They've come back for a little while, but then they're headed back north next week, and then don't plan to be back this season. And then we have church members that I have visited with who are not coming back. And then, as Steve shared earlier, which I shared with him that I thought was a good move on their part. Like, he and Kathy are not going to come back until they're able to get a vaccine, and so I would say there's an interesting mix of people who are staying up north, perhaps because they live in a more isolated place, or have that ability, but the view is that we will have a very robust tourist season, because you can come down here, you can be outside. I mean, we have good tourism anyway for all those reasons, but especially when people have felt cooped up. And
well, I live in a high rise, and people are coming back more than usual, I would say, earlier.
Yeah.
I just want to put in a plug for a church that we used to have much more closer relations, but it's kind of drifted away over the years, is Plymouth in Miami, that sponsored our church in the early days. And I sometimes attend that church, and both online and in person. And their pastors have been to our church for the state meetings. And we've, over the years, have had ministers who've served both ministries, and they have opened their church. Now, the way they do it is they still have their online service Sunday morning, and then they have an afternoon service for those that want to be there in person Sunday afternoon. They take reservations, they socially distance, you have to wear a mask. It would be tempted to do it, but I'd have to be willing to take a risk. I think the committee here has made the right decision to stay closed.
Even if they do that, it's no singing, which is terrible. No singing.
Well, yeah, I think the choir there sings, but not the people.
Yeah, but I mean congregational.
In the
Right, yeah.
congregation. But Gay, would you like to sing something for us now?
No, thank you. But I should be rehearsing for the Zoom thing we're going to do, or the music's on the piano, but.
Well, yeah, and one of the interesting things is one of the things that Steve and I asked of the reopening task force is that they would estimate for us what the seating capacity with social distancing of our sanctuary is. So our sanctuary, as I like to say, if you're a fire marshal, is 650. We can get 750, no problem in there. But if you're a fire marshal at 650, the reopening task force in partnership with our board of deacons estimates, and they actually went in and like taped things off and have kind of worked on things, that it's between 125 and 150. So again, when you apply the appropriate social distancing onto that canvas, if you will, that's how a limiting that is. But again, when we reopen, assuming that we apply social distancing and still have to do that, which we likely will for quite a while until the vaccine is really made its way through our society, then it's going to be a significant reduction in what we can host in season. I mean, assuming that we had the same capacity of worshipers, I mean, really, that would be like 10 worship services to host what we normally do. We don't think we're going to have to do that, but I mean, it is a significant reduction. And again, that's part of what I mean when I talk about a lot of people turn out for events and worship services that we do. And so that's one of the unique challenges of a large church. And so if some people feel more comfortable being at home and watching online, if we can increase that effectiveness, then and experience, that's one of our goals. So
Well, and also social events, I have been involved in social events,
yeah.
and those things are just not going to happen for a long time. And that's another way of people connecting, which
Sure.
of course means, in addition to everything else, I'm involved with, no Red Sox tickets this year.
I know. I was actually thinking about, I don't know why it came into my mind the other day, Selena, but I was like, we're not going to go to the Red Sox this year, I bet, but I think that, I mean, my gosh, certainly Major League, all of our major sports, actually, professional sports, everything's different. So
And this year, I was going to make sure I got the right date for you.
I know. I was thinking about that. I thought, oh, I'm going to email Selena my spring vacation date this year and Holy Week and all this so that I get to go, because I always enjoy that. But yeah, everything. I mean, 2020 is, it's kind of like, I think in my devotional today, I talked about the fact that, when you read a hurricane or storm warning in mid-November, it's like, well, it is 2020. So why not? Well, I want to be respectful of the time that we said that we would ask. And I just want to say thank you for taking time. And it's just wonderful to see each of you and have this time together. So please stay safe. And I'll see you at least one way on Sunday.
Very good.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks for sharing with us.
Likewise. Good night.
Good night.
Night.